Good day, my name is Glenn and welcome to the first tutorial video on the ERS workflows. I'm sure you're as excited as I am in implementing these workflows. They've been months in the making, they're finally here. So in this overview video we're going to be looking at just how how these things function. Now the situation that we find ourselves in now is that we have a great product. We have a powerful timesheet generating system that is very complex, but the end result is it's sending a timesheet to the payroll system, automated timesheet where somebody doesn't have to manually capture. Problem that we have is that it's so complicated, it's not very quick in calculating those things, and we can't wait for it all the time. There's a lot of mundane things that we have to do every single day for these to manage these timesheets, like importing records, running the shift calculations, making daily timesheets, sending daily timesheets, getting corrections back from the clients, making those corrections, sending those corrected timesheet up to the client, and just cycling through that till they're happy, which is very, very time consuming. The other issue is what happens if you have more than one client. You have 5 or 6 clients. Trying to balance 7 supervisors sending you corrections all at 10 in the morning and trying to make those corrections is going to take you hours to do it because you can only do one at a time. So that's a real problem. Some of these clients have to wait till the afternoon before they can get their corrections. So how do we use technology that's at our fingertips to increase productivity, to increase efficiency, so it does everything simultaneously and your clients don't have to wait? You can do things very, very quickly. So this is the reason why workflows were created, to solve this issue so we can roll this out to the business as a whole as a efficient solution. First thing I want to take you through here in the workflows is a graphical overview of how the workflows work. Many of you already kind of understand this, but it's important for us before we start going into the rest of this tutorial and the rest of the other tutorials is to understand exactly what workflows do from a bird's eye view. The end result is always payroll. Well, the end result is actually the employee getting paid, but before we get there, we're looking at payroll. So we're trying to generate a timesheet authorized by a client, approved by a client, that is low risk, a good system that is low risk that can send that timesheet to the system. The different role players in the workflows are obviously the system itself, and you'll see ERS right here. You'll see the TNA outsource, which RPMs, RPCs, this could be you, this will be you in the beginning of this, of why you're setting it up. You'll see the operations who have their role to play. You have the client, which sometimes will be operations depending on who authorizes timesheets. And as I've said, Exapta, and we'll look at this web service just now. So to start from the very beginning of the workflow is the daily timesheet. Daily timesheet gets triggered for the day, gets sent to the client. Client will look at the timesheet, make corrections if needed. If they send corrections to the time, and just bear in mind this is all via email. There's no website they have to log on to. There's no application they need to download. It's all chasing after them. They're not chasing after the system's running after them, sending them a daily timesheet. They will send back the corrections. The system will make those corrections automatically and send an updated timesheet to them. They can cycle around this, making corrections, getting new daily timesheets until they're happy. When they're happy with the timesheet, they'll send a daily timesheet confirmation saying, yes, I approve these times, I'm happy with them. All the while this is happening, TNA Outsource are busy looking at a dashboard. The system is always updating it. Every time Supervisor A gets their timesheet, TNA Outsource will see on their dashboards they've got their timesheet, we're still waiting for them to approve. When when Supervisor A does approve those timesheets, then it'll send an update to the TNA Outsource dashboard and say that Supervisor A has approved the timesheet for today, but Supervisor B, C, and D haven't. They're still in the process. So they can see all of their workflows and monitor them from their desk. At the end of every day, there'll be a workflow rule to confirm tomorrow's timesheet. If it's Wednesday today, and we know there's been some shuffle around, some people have been in different positions. They're working as forklift drivers today, and they weren't yesterday, and they've maybe changed to a different department. We want to make those changes today to prepare tomorrow's timesheet. Tomorrow's too late to do that. So at the end of every day, an employee confirmation timesheet will be sent to operations or the client, depending on who needs it. Also, the new employees, if people have been loaded today, we also need to put in their information, what shifts they must be part of, what groups they're part of, what the temp numbers are. It all must be put in there. So that will be sent either as a new employee detail request or an employee details confirmation report to operations, and they will send back confirming that these are the changes that need to be made, or everybody's fine, you don't have to worry about any changes. Bearing in mind that sometimes these new employees and current employees, they'll be on the same report. You can do that, just depending on the requirements of the site. Then on a weekly basis, you'll have a weekly timesheet that gets sent via email to the client. The client will, if they need corrections, they'll request corrections, but they won't be able to make corrections in a weekly timesheet. They'll be sent a daily timesheet for the employees that they have queried, and they can make the change on the daily timesheet, so it can reprocess those hours, and then they can send it back to the system. The system will make those changes, make a new weekly timesheet, send that new weekly timesheet to the client. If they're happy with everything, they can send back the timesheet and authorize it, saying, I approve these hours, you may pay these employees for this previous week's hours. Then the system can either send an email with the export file to a payroll administrator somewhere, or what we're really shooting for is that it'll send it electronically to a web service. It'll sit in the web service. A web service is basically just a platform or an area in the cloud, like a room in the cloud, where these export files sit until Exapta is ready for them. Exapta will see that there's a new export file, and so that's Axe, or Wets will do it as well, and will pull in that export file and process it. Okay, so that's the overview. Other TUT videos that are going to be covered on this YouTube channel will be for setting up daily rules. How do you do that? How do you set up auto imports, and how do you make the daily timesheets? We'll also be having TUT videos on how to read daily reports, how to make changes, and how to approve it. We'll be looking at employee confirmation rules, how to set up these rules for workflows. We'll be looking at how to read those employee confirmation reports, make changes, and send them to the system. We'll be looking at how to make weekly rules, how to set up auto fill-ups, the bucket rules, you may know them as, and how to make the daily timesheets. We'll have a TUT video on how to read a weekly timesheet, make changes, and improve times. We'll be looking at how to make export rules. We'll be looking at how to read a dashboard and how to control a dashboard. We're looking at how to pull off audit reports for the workflows, just in case the client says, no, I didn't do that. You can go back to an audit report and prove that they did approve those times. And there's another process, how to implement the workflow rules. There is, and I know what you're going to think about this, but there is what we call the KFC process, how to implement workflow rules. And you're probably thinking, another process. Do we really need another Burger King, KFC, McDonald's process? The answer right now is yes. While we're in this transition period between between being on R2, some sites are on the new system, no sites being on the workflow, while we're transitioning into this, trying to get everything on the new system, we do need these workflow rules to keep everything controlled and to lower risk. But eventually, please, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Eventually, there will be just one process, and that'll be the McDonald's process. And that'll be ending in the workflow rules being implemented on the new system. There'll be no R2, there'll be one. So hang in with us. It is complicated, but don't worry, we'll be walking you through that, how to use these implementations. Before I end this TUT video, I just want to talk about company contacts and workflow rule containers. Now, a company contact is any person that interacts with the system in terms of workflows. This could be a client, TNA outsource, could be you as an RPM, RPC. You'd have to set them up as company contacts if you want to send them an email of any sort from a workflow. So to make a company contact, you first need to log onto the account, make the person a system user, then you need to complete the person as a company contact. Now, I'm just going to bring in workflows. I'm going to bring in this little sheet over here. So as I say, to make a company contact, you first have to go and create a new user. And bearing in mind, there must be a system user. It can't be an employee. So I'm just going to take an existing person here, Fricky, double click on them. See that Fricky is already a system user. He's there. He's got his username and his password. Bearing in mind that in terms of authorization, the system user, when they are completing a offline timesheet, they need to put in their password. If they put in the wrong password, the changes that they request will be discarded. Okay, so the system user has been set up, so now we need to confirm them or complete them as a company contact. To do that, you go to Setup, Miscellaneous, and then you'll see Company Contacts right over there. It's going to be blank because there's no company contacts right here. So here you go to New Company Contact, you select Fricky over there, Company Contact, you make them a Workflow Company Contact, you put in their cell phone number or you just any random number there if you don't have a cell phone number for them, and their email address. I've already got Fricky's email address, so I just put it there and I save it and wait for it to load. So that's as simple as that. That's how you set up a company contact. Now when I'm setting up workflows and I want to send a certain workflow to Fricky, I can now choose them from a list of workflow company contacts that this daily report must be sent to. Great. Now the second thing that we're going to be looking at before we end this off is workflow containers. Just like shift rules have shift rule containers, the workflows also have workflow containers. You'll need to set up daily containers, and you'll also need to set up weekly containers. So let's go back here to see how that works. You go down to Automation, you go down to Setup, and then you'll see Manage Workflows. And here's your workflow container page. Go to New Workflow. Let's say the first one is receiving day. That's going to be a daily workflow. You'll see there's weekly and daily. There's also monthly, bi-weekly, and bi-monthly. We're not going to get to those in these workflows. We will get to them eventually in the future. But in the meantime, let's just select daily. Select the days it must run every single day. Depend on the workflow. Daily rules don't really need to be dependent on any workflows, but the weekly rules do. Start date, end date, you can just leave these. These will be filled in automatically for you, so you can just save that. And it's saved. So there's your first daily workflow rule. You can open it up. Here's where you add in the steps, but that's going to be covered in future tutorial videos. So I'm not really interested in that. There's no steps here. We'll add them in later. Now you need to make a weekly container. So you go new workflow rule. You're going to say receiving. Let's just delete day and make weekly. Select weekly from the drop-down list over here. Intervals. It must trigger every Monday. It must be dependent on the receiving day workflow. Once daily workflows have been done, have been completed, then these ones will trigger. You save it. Alright, so there you have it. That is the containers, and we're going to go more on those in future tutorial videos. So yes, that's the overview of the system and the workflow system. Hope it was informative. Hope you're feeling comfortable to go on to the next workflow tutorial video on how to set up workflow rules, daily workflow rules. All right, thank you.